Hello, welcome to the Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob, and I am incredibly excited to say that the Age of Sigmar Stat Center is back, where we look at event results around the world. I'm also, now that Age of Sigmar 4 is out, going to try and improve the stat show by showcasing interviews and pictures of events that happen around the world. So, if you are running an event, attending an event, and if you're one of the people in my Discord or in my wider community and you want to get to me videos and other things, pictures that I can overlay with these videos when I do event reviews, then do try to reach out to me. I'm going to be reaching out to TOs, tournament organizers around the world as well, but I'd really like to make the Age of Sigmar Stat Center show all about the event results on the weekend, but also like a community show. All of the things that are happening, kind of like a big news show of events that have happened around the world, because I am incredibly happy to be a part of this community, and I would like to keep showing off how wicked that is. Just fresh from Age of Sigmar World Team Championships, fresh off playing an event this weekend while also being part of running that event as well. So much to talk about. 3 events happening that I know of, maybe more, that happened this weekend alone while the Age of Sigmar 4 rules were just landing. So before we do get into the event results, please take everything with a pinch of salt. You're going to have so many people out there right now, content creators and other people, doing hot takes, making you feel bad about your army, that it's too strong or it's too rubbish. No one knows how the game works. If my weekend is anything to go by, give yourself a break. Go out there and play games with your army before you start engaging in all sorts of rubbish internet discourse. The best way for you to learn is to go and play, whether that's in a club or an event or whatever else. Either way, though, we are going to look at some event results and some interviews from people who have played this weekend. It's the first thing we're going to do, including myself. So we'll talk about those right now. Let's go look at our first event. And as always, thank you to the Twitch chat and everyone on the Honest Wargamer Patreon for supporting me in being able to create this. So the first event we're going to look at, and I'm going to take a moment to be a little bit selfish, if that's okay, because the first event we're going to look at is the event that I was able to run and participate in this weekend here at the TSN Arena in Nottingham in England. I love running events, and it's super cool, but I'm really fortunate in that we sold a lot of tickets to this event. Therefore, I could hire someone in. So shout out to Rebecca, who's amazing and super wonderful and got loads of tournament experience and event running experience before. Hired her in, and she was able to run the event for me, so I was able to play, which was just brilliant. I've also recorded, I think I recorded 3 out of those 4 games that I played. I had to drop out 1 game in order to let someone else drop out, which is a bit sad. But I am planning to try and play in every single event that I run at the arena in the future to get as much tournament experience myself, so hopefully make all of my stats shows better, my reviews better, and all those other things. So I had a really great time doing that, which was good. That was in Nottingham, and we had 20 players playing, 22 players, something like that, playing at the event. So it's not the biggest, but it was just the first one I wanted to talk about. 20 players, which was cool, with all sorts of experiences, from international players like Hazel and Peter to people who was their first event as well, which is just great to see. So just really lovely experience, and of course, like all of the context I'd like to put in for all of these lists and everything I'm going to talk about. It was an event where people were just learning how to play. Sure, people were also trying to learn how to play and learn how to win at the same time, but learning how to play was the most important factor at this event. Therefore, the biggest shout out of this event goes to Mark Colwill, and that's because Mark was able to win Best Sports at this event, and I think that's easily like the best award to go at an event where everyone's learning how to play, which is great. So yeah, that was the event I ran and also participated in, and I'm going to participate in loads of events. And I will be making an event report about that. I'll also be making videos for Patreon where you can watch my games in full, which will be available on Patreon this week. So at my event, we had 5 rounds. We played 5 different missions. We used all of the rules, like everything from the GHD, all of the rules in place. We used the Games Workshop terrain maps for those missions as well, which was cool. Hazel was able to take out the event on the 4-1 there with her Idoneth Deepkin. You'll be able to see an interview with her right now. I'm here with Hazel, who just won our first Age of Sigmar friend. Hello, Hazel.
Hi everyone.
What do you think of Age of Sigmar 4?
It's really great. It's really smooth and clean. I think it's a great addition to the game. There's a lot of positive things. There's definitely some stuff that is going to need to be worked on. But I think overall it's a great addition. People should get out and play, yeah.
What made you want to bring Deepkin to, like, you know, it's a learner event. What made you want to bring them?
Well, Deepkin's like my favourite army. It always has been. It's my first love of the game. I think the models are beautiful. And at a point in the time when there's no pressure to do well and it's all just about learning, it was just a great opportunity to try them out.
Okay, that's great. And what did you bring and, like, how did it perform?
So I brought a 2-drop with 2 heroes, an Idoneth in the Sea, which is the wizard one, and a Soul Scryer, which is also a wizard, and a Deep Strike hero. A couple of units of 10 Reavers, a couple of Sharks, Turtle, and 6 Eels. I think the Eels, unfortunately, just aren't what they used to be. Maybe would look at taking them out the list. I think the one thing I would say to everyone is that you definitely need to have at least 2 cast wizard in your army if you can. Yeah.
Why do you suggest a 2-cast wizard?
The stuff that you can do with manifestations in the game now is just so impactful, just in terms of creating barriers for your opponent, or just, you know, being able to get that chip damage in, or in fact just doing damage, because some of them are much better than units in terms of their ability to put out combat damage. So I think it's just not something you can afford to leave on the shelf.
That makes sense. And then, you know, manifestations seemed like a bit of an issue. How do you feel about them?
Personally, I'm not a fan of them for the game. I think that at the high level, when people are really going for that skill expression, it's going to lead to quite a negative experience for both players, with everyone trying to shut off and block spaces out with manifestations. I think, you know, the more narrative gamer or kind of I guess kind of tournament experience gamer who's not so concerned about trying to 5-0 or push the edge of their list, it's probably going to be fun because, like, they don't have to pay points for something; they can just have it and use their collection.
What would you say, like, if someone tomorrow was like, okay, I'd like to play Sigmar 4 and I'd like to do, like, well, I'm not talking about practice, like the mechanics for Sigmar 4. What did you think is something you could take away?
I think take a list that plays every phase. So give yourself some magic, give yourself some shooting, give yourself some combat, and just practice with that list and just keep playing it and get the reps in. Don't worry about if you're winning or losing. Just learn all the mechanics really well and make it an army that you love and enjoy playing. Perfect.
Any last advice to people out there?
Not really. Just, you know, hi chat. It's fun to be on telly. I get nervous, but yeah.
Thank you so much. And if we take a moment to look at the list, we can see that in her list, she was running Achillean Beastmasters for Idoneth Deepkin. General's Regiment had an Eidolon of the Sea, could only be hit on 4s, and Delicious Morsels as a heroic artifact. Artifact. She had Unit 6 Morsar Guard and 2 Alapexes, a Leviathan, a Soul Scryer in a different regiment, and then 2 units of Mighty Reavers with an additional command point in the first battle round, and brought that Morbid Conjuration manifestation set. I do have a video, will have a video about manifestations, but that does feel like Kronspine and Morbid manifestations feel like they will become incredibly meta. Some of those manifestations feel like they're just far too good, especially for free, but that's a whole different convo. But I'm not going to go into this list in detail. I think maybe one of the key parts here is Leviathan or the Reavers have got a really egregious amount of shooting, or at least a good amount of shooting. And being able to shoot in your opponent's turn as well as your turn feels like a massive boon to the effectiveness of this unit and being able to shoot twice. But, you know, you've already heard from Hazel exactly what you think about this list. So that's fun. In second place, Matthew Willisey of Ron's Dragons with Gloopspike Git's Glog's Mega Mob. Incredibly cool. Now, he was running Trogherd. It was what he was actually running, not Glog's Mega Mob, because that doesn't exist anymore. So he was running the Trogherd. He had the Kragnos, a unit of Rotgut Troggoths, so that's 1. Another 2 more units of Rotgut Troggoths in other regiments. A unit of 2 Spider Riders. The Spider Riders have been considered to be quite weak by a lot of people, but they do have a control score of 2 each. So I think, and Matthew is in the chat and was saying, that he was using them to contest objectives as well as doing battle tactics because they're fast and you aren't really paying attention to them when you have Kragnos, Trug, a Dankhold Trogboss, and 3 units of 3 Rotgut Troggoths running at you. You don't have time to deal with the Spider Riders, which I think is fun. A 2-drop list, incredibly cool army in my opinion. Dan Bean brought a really interesting Soulblight Gravelords list, which had Prince Vordry, a unit of 10 Blood Knights, a unit of Vargeist, Belladama Volga, who makes direwolves not beasts anymore, and then 2 units of Reinforced Direwolves. Units of Reinforced Direwolves is 2 lots of 20 wolves for 80 wounds. across that unit. And then Kritzer as well in the list, which is super fun. Then Peter Twigg of the Fist of York, great guy. Also, yeah, so as I was saying, Peter Twigg running Cities of Sigmar, really excited to talk about this list. Also, him and Dan Bean are based up in Yorkshire, obviously, and they'll be running an event, and you can go and find out. I'll include a link in the notes below. They'll be running the Siege of York GT, so this will be the first event in the Yorkshire area. So if you're UK-based, go and get over there. It'll be fun. They've said they're printing a load of terrain for it, so go check it out. Anyway, Pete was running a pretty cool list. He was running the Iwell company. He had Thalia, the first marshal of Talia Vedra, Fusel Major on Ogre Warhawk, 20 Fusiliers, a 3 Guild Marshal, 10 Cavaliers, 2 lots of 10 Steel Helms, a Warforger, 2 Great Cannons, and the Command Corps. Pete was really explicit in letting me know, and I do have a video about Pete's experiences, which I'll include right now. I'm joined by Peter Twigg. Hi, Pete. So, Pete, you've just played in your first Age of Sigmar 4 event. How do you feel about Age of Sigmar 4?
The game is wild. The game is wild. The counterplay now in this game is insane.
What do you mean by counterplay?
So, your tactics aren't safe, hide them. Right, that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Never have I ever failed so many tactics. My opponent has cast a spell that I can't be within 3 on their turn.
Okay.
Right, and it's like, oh, all of a sudden I can't do the take the terrain feature, or my opponent has 3d6 charged me in their turn, and now my unit that I was going to have safe and not die is very dead because Kraknos has hit me. Yeah, counterplay is really, really good. Redeploy now being at the end of the phase is insane. You're not playing the, ooh, do I redeploy, do I not game? The unit's going to redeploy, and it's going to ruin your day if you were trying to get it out of like a deep strike charge. All this sort of stuff, it really adds up.
Okay, that's super interesting. What made you want to take like Cities of Sigmar specifically?
Because I'm a man of the people, Rob.
I've never disagreed with that, Pete. But specifically why?
Because the lads from York have come to not mess with elves and hate skeletons and hate orcs. And we're here to lay down the law for Sigmar. The main reason was because I don't think they've had players like a dynamic army for a long time. Because it was typically all steam tanks, right? Or it's typically like wall of Fusiliers that delete your army. Now you can run like Cavaliers, you can run the Command Corps, all these different elements. The Priests are really good now too. The army plays like an army, so I had a look, I see if I could break the game. Counter shoot twice with the Command Corps is insanely good. So yeah, no, I think they're fantastic. I think they're good. I think you'll see them about a lot.
So one of the things obviously has come up is manifestations. Do you feel like, how do you feel about manifestations as like, you know, in the game now?
Yeah, I feel like maybe they're doing a bit too much.
Okay.
Is sort of where I'm at with it. So I've had games where my opponent's like, my spells aren't that good, they might only have an effect for the turn, so I'll just throw out a manifestation. All of a sudden, you're slogging your way through back-to-back manifestations. Unless you can get to those back wizards and pick them up, sometimes I think you'll find, especially with some of the laws, like the one with the Gravetide in it and stuff, you're going to spend a very long time just trying to chew through them and getting no reward, right? Because they're just going to get summoned again. And maybe even on your turn.
Yeah, that genuinely is really interesting. I think manifestations are going to, especially deep strikes, the tech that they have against that as well is real wild.
Really strong.
If you, are you going to run cities again?
I think so. Yeah, I think there's a much more efficient list. Like we were running Talia here to see what we could do with her. She's terrible, unfortunately. More Cavaliers, more Fusiliers, more nonsense, more counter shooting. That's the future for cities, I think.
Okay, interesting. And then, like, so if someone was looking to get in cities, what do you think that they should be running? Like, specifically, like you say, more Fusiliers?
You need to get yourself a Command Corps. You absolutely, I think Pontifex, she's not in this list, but she will be in lists going forward because she's a 2-chant priest. And with the way ritual points work now, it's insanely good. You'll need yourself some Fusiliers, unfortunately, at least 20, I think, just on account of how efficient they are with the shooting. And the fact that the city's command traits aren't that great unless you take the +1 to hit, +1 to wound 1. And in the General's Regiment, they're +1 to hit, +1 to wound against enemy generals. And enemy General's Regiment's really, really strong because it works on both turns.
Any final thoughts, like, tactics or ways that people should be trying to, like, think about how to play the game, over the next few months as they're learning?
Yeah, I think now the game, with a lot of the scenarios looking at it, it's a lot of fight in the middle. They've brought back a lot of the ones that people like that were... It either pushes you towards the middle, like the Vice, like Star Strike, or it's incentivizing you to sort of have these big durable units to sit in the middle. Someone once said safe stacking's gone. I'm not sure what they meant by that because it really isn't. So I think I think the game is back to hammer and anvil. You need those units that can sit there and take the punishment. So that's my takeaway.
Any final shout-outs?
CG York, come on! CG York, 7th and 8th of September, get yourself CG York, get yourself a ticket. And I'll shout out Team Wales, love those boys.
And as you can see from that video, he was really explicit in letting you know that those Fusiliers were just able to shoot so much stuff. He said he thought he would take more in the future, which is an interesting take as well. So those are pretty much all of the lists. I mean, there was a bunch of stuff. I ran 4 Bloodthirsters over the weekend. I'll talk about those experiences in a separate video. I want to thank everyone for coming to the boot camp. We have loads more boot camps happening at the TSN Arena across Nottingham over the next few months, as well as a bunch of events. Love to see you turn up and play. But loads of really interesting thoughts. I think the big takeaway from the event for me was manifestations are super impactful in the game. That's really interesting. That was the question we got asked the most. Rebecca gave me that feedback. And apart from that, I think the rules feel really neat and clean. And I think there's just going to be a big learning curve and people are just really enjoying the game. Our next event that we're going to look at is the Vantastic GT. This was held in the USA in Ridgeland, Mississippi, and was organized by Chance Crabtree. 30 players battled it out with Mike Maccabee with his Lumineth Realm Lords going 5-0. Mike's list contains a Venari Battle Host, a Hurricane Wind Mage, Sinari Caligrave, 10 Blade Lords, Leor, 10 Dawn Riders, Sinari Enlightener, and brought the Kronspine Incarnate. But you don't need to listen to me. Let's listen to Mike tell you his experiences about running this army.
Hey, I'm Mike Maccabee. I played at the Vantastic GT in Ridgeland, Mississippi. For this event, I brought the Lumineth Realm Lords. My list was Leor, a Hurricane Wind Spirit, a Hurricane Wind Mage, 10 Wind Chargers, 10 Dawn Riders, and 10 Blade Lords. The reason I picked those units, and a Caligrave, was I brought Leor to deal with manifestations because I thought since they're free now, everyone's going to take a bunch of them. With the Caligrave, the manifestation lore I chose was the Kronspine because I thought there was going to be a lot of manifestations out on the field. And his ability to summon a manifestation on your opponent's turn and ignore the minus to the casting roll was really good. And he just sets the value at an 8 if you don't roll an 8, which was really great. The Wind Chargers and the Fox were the MVPs of the list. They spent the entire game going around and doing all the battle tactics, 4 quarters, doing the board edges, taking a terrain feature. They were great at doing the one for taking an objective your opponent controlled, because towards the mid game, towards late game, when everyone kind of moves into the mid board, the Fox being able to run and move, so he would go minimum 19 inches to a maximum of 24, shoot, and then move 18 more inches, was really great on just getting objectives. Overall, I think this edition's really great. It is a lot of fun, and I am just excited to get more games in.
Thanks, Mike. I'm sure we're going to see a lot more Lumineth Realm Lord lists in the future. Our next player is Kenneth King in the 4-1 bracket with his Breaker Tribe, and the Breaker Tribe list contains Brod, Gatebreaker, a War Stomper, and then 3 Man Crushers, 3 single Man Crushers. I was a little concerned about the Mega Gargant, specifically because their ability to hold objectives might be a little bit challenging while also trying to do the battle tactics. Battle tactics are not that easy, I think. Some of them require a lot of board edge space, and I think the objectives being smaller is going to be something that still is going to be a really interesting learning point for a lot of players. But obviously, Kenneth didn't find it a struggle. They went 4-1. You love to see it. Our next player is Jeremy Lear. Shout out to Jeremy, running Ogre Moor Tribes, but unfortunately didn't submit his list, which is an incredibly ogre thing to do. But thankfully we know what he was running, and he was running 36 Gluttons in his list. 36 Gluttons, which I think everyone was incredibly impressed by. And our last 4-1 is Seth Hickman with his Skaven, and Seth was running in their list Gracier on Screaming Bell, who was the general, with 20 Clan Rats, 20 Storm Vermin, 20 more Storm Vermin, 6 Warplock Giselles, a Master Molder, 1 Hell Pit Abomination, 3 Storm Fiends, and the Manifestation Doom. Now, I think one of the interesting things about Storm Vermin is their ability to crit auto wound. Actually, with that many dice rolls, becomes pretty interesting. For Clan, this is for Clan Rats, sorry. The crit auto wound, I think, is pretty fun. Giselles are great for either putting massive damage on an opponent at range and then shooting your opponent's turn, That double damage tap, I think, is going to be something you're going to see from lots of armies of being like, I'm going to include one significant shooting unit, the Hellpit Abomination, and also the Storm Fiends, which is great. So yeah, overall, super interesting list. Obviously, I'd like to deep dive these more in the future, but it's still just really early. So just take all of this with a pinch of salt. Don't see this as like the net list or the best list. Everyone's just learning how to play at the minute. I think that's the thing you need to take away, but you should probably also take away from this event that 36 Gluttons can at least kick 4 people in the face, which is great. Our next event is the Age of Sigmar Grand Tournament Theatre of War, being held in a college. Pretty fun. Look at us. We're on a college campus there. Being run by Daniel Meeks with James O'Brien and Parker Smith helping, and they even had a judge, Jeremy Houck. I think I'm saying that right. I apologize. 28 players playing at this event. Our first place was Rye Anderson of Team Tilt with his Soulblight Gravelords. So he was running the formation was the Tide of Bones. He had the manifestations, the Etheric Machineries. He had Manfred in a battalion with Black Knights, and Manfred was the general. So the Black Knights was a unit of 10. Then a Vampire Lord on foot with the Lash of the Sire and the Amulet of Screams, which is so good into enemy casters, does D3 mortals. A unit of Reinforced Graveguard, so 20. Another unit of Reinforced Graveguard, so 20. A unit of Reinforced Death Rattle Skeletons. Then Torgillis the Chamberlain and a unit of Death Rattle Skeletons, all of which bring models back. Torgillis helps bring wounds and models back into these units using the Allegiance ability. That's what he does. Manfred is great in combat and buffs the other units around it. Black Knight's really hot. Graveguard, great in combat, super good. So that's what you're looking at for this list. So congratulations to Ryan, a 5-0. Nick Rao, with his Lumineth Realm Lords, was running a Venari Lord Region in the General's Regiment, and then a unit of 20 Sentinels, and then Eleanor and Elathor, a unit of 10 Dawn Riders, a unit of 5 Dawn Riders, a unit of 5 Stone Guard, and then in another regiment, led by a Calagrave, we were running a unit of Wardens, again reinforced for a unit of 20. And then the battle formation was the Venari Battle Host, and then the Kronspine Incarnate was brought along as well. So I don't have tons to say about that list at the moment. Maybe in the future I'll have more to say about it, but that's what it was. Then, shout out to Corey Wiggins. Corey Wiggins knew the assignment when it came to Age of Sigmar 4, and he came big. Be'lakor the Dark Master as the general. 6 Varangard, 3 Varangard with the manifestations of malevolence in the God's Wrath Warband. Thank you to Kenny for donating 5 gift subs. Just smashing it. Absolutely smashing it. And then finally, Harry Isaacson with their Seraphon of the Bridge Trolls team. Running a Slan Star Master as the general. 10 Saurus Guard, 6 Agrodons, and a Skink Star Priest. And then Saurus Scarvet was also the leader of another regiment with 6 Agrodons and 10 Saurus Guard, and then a Skink Starseer. And again, the Kronspine been brought in this list as well. So there you go. That's it. That's it from that event. I don't have tons to really add. I think looking at the list is just interesting to start with. And do let me know in the comments below what you think about looking at these lists at the minute. Right now, we are all learning the game. I don't think I can speak from a position of power. I don't think anyone can speak from a position of power or authority about why the units were taken, what they would do, how they would change it, apart from the players themselves, of which I was one this weekend, and we've already tried to hear from a few of those players already. That's why I've done the interviews, and hopefully I'll get more of those in the future. But I think really interesting. I think we definitely are going to have this really healthy conversation in a few months about manifestations, the Incarnate. Incarnate is great against manifestations. So if everyone's bringing them, everyone brings an Incarnate, right? Every single game having an Incarnate every time. Will that be a lot? Yes, that will be a lot. I will hate that. Like, I want you to know I'm being really upbeat and positive about the edition, and I am very excited. I think it's the best on-tabletop experience Age of Sigmar has ever been. But I don't think I'm going to really enjoy playing against the Incarnate every single game. But I think there's going to be so much more to talk about. Maybe there'll be some really good anti-manifestation tech out there. Maybe just we'll shoot everything. I don't know. You know, maybe every unit will have shooting. Maybe the playstyle will be so dynamic because of how you're going to score objectives and battle tactics, that units will be much more diverse. How you're building lists is really interesting. And then you're just going to have people running all Varangard, which I think is really cool as well. I'm very excited to see what the future holds for Age of Sigmar. Do not use this weekend as your benchmark for what is the best or the worst Age of Sigmar units. I think that would be a mistake to do. But just realize that lots of people played this weekend, had a great time, and they're also going to do that in the future. So be a part of that community. Go to your local club, go to your local event, go and support the local events. If you're not confident about playing, say to the TO, do you need a hand? Maybe I could come and hang out. And then you could see that it's a really friendly environment. But either way, thank you to the Age of Sigmar community for sending me videos and making me feel like I'm a part of it. And I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all soon. Goodbye.